Tamale, a very vibrant village, located not far from River Baneway, and bordered by 2 hills and vast lush forests, there lived 2 grandmothers. Along with their daughters-in-law, they lived with their 2 grandchildren. Fuyisi and Amiden, the fathers of these children, were fishermen and best of friends. Unfortunately, they lost their lives while returning from a fishing trip. They mistakenly sailed against a very strong ocean current that developed suddenly and threw their boat over a waterfall. They did not survive it. Gogo Amara was the mother of Fuyisi, and he happened to be her only son. At the same time, Gogo Abeni was the mother of Amiden, and incidentally, he was also her only son. As the village traditions demand, after the burial, both grandmothers move in with their daughters-in-law to comfort them, and also help them to take care of the children that Fuyisi and Amiden gave birth to while they were alive. Gogo Amara was known all over the village for her wisdom and kindness, and fortunately, her granddaughter, Zuri, mirrored her gentle nature. Across the village, Gogo Abeni was known as a very fiery and highly spirited woman. Incidentally, she raised her grandson, Kolaphizo, with the same fervor. It's amazing that despite their differing temperaments, Zuri and Kolaphizo grew up as best friends because they always come together to play. They just seem to complement each other. The strong chemistry that helped them to love spending their days together developed while their fathers were alive. Their favorite manner of play is to explore the forests, run around the riverside, and sharing dreams of a future filled with happiness and prosperity. An old village wiseman once saw them under the village baobab trees and jokingly said that their bond was as strong as the roots of the ancient baobab tree that stood in the village center. As they grew older, Zuri took to making and selling beads. That was the vocation that the women at Tamale were noted for at that time. Kolaphizo became a very successful farmer. His uncle released his father's land to him when he was of age, and he bought more land for farming later. Somehow, the friendship of Zuri and Kolaphizo gradually blossomed into love, and the entire village celebrated their union when they decided to marry. Apart from the fact that they were happy for Zuri and Kolaphizo, they also hoped that the union would bring the families closer together. Contrary to the expectation of the villagers, their grandmother's long-standing rivalry cast a shadow over their joy. Gogo Amara and Gogo Abeni had been rivals since their youth. Their competition over whose family was more prosperous, whose wisdom was greater. After having grandchildren, the contention between them shifted from their mutual rivalry to those whose grandchild was superior. This further fueled their animosity. When Zuri and Kolaphizo got married, their grandmother's bitterness greatly intensified. The young couple's early days of marriage was filled with happiness, but soon the seeds of discord planted by their grandmothers began to sprout. Gogo Amara and Gogo Abeni constantly interfered in the couple's decision-making process. Each of them always tried to assert dominance and control over Zuri and Kolaphizo's lives. The meddlings of the grandmothers always led to bitter misunderstandings, and this resulted in many seemingly unresolved conflicts between Zuri and Kolaphizo. The mother of Zuri and that of Kolaphizo managed the situation maturely, and ensure that they stay out of the ways of Gogo Amara and Gogo Abeni. One day, Gogo Amara gifted the couple a golden plate, which in the real sense was made of clay but painted in gold. She said it is a family heirloom that has the power to bring prosperity and happiness. Not to be outdone, Gogo Abeni falsely claimed that the plate was cursed and that it would bring misfortune to them. The argument over the golden plate became a symbol of the larger conflict, as she successfully manipulated Zuri to break the plate, when Kolaphizo went to the farm one day. Zuri and Kolaphizo subsequently found themselves caught in the crossfire because the constant tension at home took its toll on their love. The unfeigned love that they once shared was a bond, as strong as iron, but now what the villagers observed is that they quarreled endlessly. Their love that had once united them was gradually overshadowed by the rivalry of their grandmothers. At a point, they both made several efforts to resolve the issues, but the weight of their grandmother's feud was just too heavy for them to bear. Their once bright eyes became dulled with sorrow, and their hearts ached with the weight of their lost love. Eventually, the strain led to their painful separation. Both of them were really heartbroken, and despite their effort, they feeling defeated both ultimately parted ways. With tears in her eyes, Zuri had to return to her mother's house, and it was her grandmother that she met at the entrance of the door. For the first time, both grandmothers felt the sting of failure and loss. As it happened in most villages, their once celebrated love became the gossip topic. People continue to whisper about their tragic separation. Despite the fact that this has happened, the grandmothers were still blind to the damages that their rivalry had caused. As such, they continued their feud. Now that Zuri and Kolaphizo are now separated, they keep facing the brunt of their grandmother's bitterness. Zuri was constantly reminded of her failed marriage whenever she met with her peers at some of the village events. Kolaphizo's dream of having the best marriage, which got shattered, was also noised about among the young men in the village. This made their spirits to get really broken. Over 6 months period, Zuri and Kolaphizo suffered many types of abuse which evidently were the products of their grandmother's unrelenting conflict. Some villagers initially tried to help resolve the conflict between them, but their grandmother never allowed their effort to yield any fruit. Much later they watched helplessly as the Zuri and Kolaphizo continued to wither under the harshness of their grandmother's rivalry. One day, as the sun set behind the hills, casting a golden glow over the village, the elders called for an urgent meeting. They could no longer bear to see the young couple suffer. In the village square, beneath the ancient baobab tree, they confronted Gogo Amara and Gogo Abeni. The elders spoke of unity, reminding the grandmothers of the damage their feud had caused. They urged them to reconcile for the sake of their grandchildren. They also threatened to banish them from the village if they refused to align. As the elders spoke, tears filled the eyes of Zuri and Kolaphizo, who stood silently by, and their hearts somehow yearned for peace. Moved by the elders' words and the sight of their suffering grandchildren, Gogo Amara and Gogo Abeni realized the depth of their mistakes. They embraced each other, with tears of remorse flowing freely. Unknown to them, the broken golden plate, which was once a symbol of their rivalry, was secretly obtained, repaired and placed at the foot of the baobab tree as a token of their reconciliation. The broken parts that were fixed stood as a symbol of the possibility of restoration occurring after conflicts. With the grandmother's feud finally at an end, Zuri moved back to Kolaphizo's house and Tijuai both slowly began to heal. The villagers also rallied around them, offering support and love, and over time, their bond rekindled, and they found solace in each other once more. The golden plate, now a symbol of peace and unity, remained at the base of the baobab tree, reminding the village of the importance of harmony and the devastating effects of rivalry. Zuri and Kolaphizo, having endured so much, emerged stronger and more resilient, with their love shining brighter than ever. Zuri eventually got pregnant and gave birth to twins. And so, the village flourished under the lessons learned from the golden plate, cherishing the bonds of family and community, and ensuring that the shadows of the past never again darkened their future. There are 7 life-transforming lessons that can be gleaned from this story. Number 1. Grandmothers should be careful of transferring personal feud to their children and their grandchildren, thus negatively influencing them. Some feud even become generational. It's not good. Number 2. Mothers should endeavor to stand up and address negatively influence been imparted to their children by grandmothers or any elderly person. Number 3. Children and grandchildren should only emulate the positive and love-building character traits they observed in the life of those that they respected their views. Number 4. Couples need to know that in marriage, their love and mutual bond should be given the number 1 priority. It supersedes any parental or generational feud, expressed through divisive views. Number 5. We must know that offense will always come, whether we are couples, parents, or grandparents. As much as possible, we should cultivate the habit of resolving the matter amicably. Number 6. When matters seems to escalate beyond our capacity, we should try and take matters to those who are more mature and are in a position to help. Number 7. If you see yourself as someone that's in a position of authority and responsibility, wisely intervene in marital conflicts in a timely manner. Our intervention must be geared towards proffering permanent solutions.